It was about 3 years ago when I tired of being a customer service agent, working long hours, bad hours, weekends, evenings to be able to make ends meet. And I thought to myself, what is it I can do? What is it my special gift for the world is? What is it that I can do that, uh, no other person can? And I thought, I'm thinking about it wrong. The truth is, I don't have any skills. I don't have any gifts. I don't have anything that I know how to do. I need to go out and I need to get some skills. I need to learn something. I need to improve myself. While I have a lot of idealism, political experience, and a lot of communication skills, I had a lot of soft skills, right? But I didn't have any hard skills, and programming then became for me the answer. I thought to myself, there's been so many times in my life where I had ideas for apps, websites, for different things. And I thought to myself, oh, I can't do it because I don't know any programming. I don't know how to program. I don't know how to code, right? And so that's how I got started. And that's why I started learning how to program. And so I started out, a simple WordPress drag and drop builder and my first job. And over time, the situation evolved into more and more PHP and JavaScript and the complex demands from different clients that I didn't know how to do. And I had this constant feeling, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea how to do this. I don't know what to do. But I resolved to tell myself, I'll figure it out. I'll Google it. I'll figure it out. I'll research on Stack Overflow. I'll find the codes. I'll find out what to do. And that's how it got started, right? And fast forward 1 year later, I got my first job as a pure programmer. And now we started out with more PHP, Laravel, JavaScript, React. I had to learn npm install. I had to learn to set up my own projects. I had to learn how to do PRs and I had GitHub. And I had to learn how to do different kinds of tasks, right? That were all beyond my competence. And my boss came out to me like a couple of months in and said, you're not doing it, you're not cutting it, you're not going to be able to make it here as a programmer, you don't have what it takes to be a programmer, you're too expensive, it's not going to work out, right? So he said, I'm going to have to be honest with you, and that's what it is, right? So, and of course, naturally I felt furious from this, because I felt I'd worked really hard and I pushed myself really far, and so what I resolved to do in that situation was I resolved to find another job, right? Instead of giving up and saying I can't do it, I told myself I'm going to move forward, next opportunities, keep going. I've learned a lot. I know I'm learning a lot. I know I'm improving. I know I'm figuring it out. I know I'm getting better. So no point stopping now. And beyond that, I resolved to, prove my boss wrong, right? So I ended up working overtime, pulling extra hours to learn everything I needed to know, to push myself to the next level. And gradually I started realizing, how code can improve your life, how knowing how programming works can improve your life, right? Because programming teaches you a new way to understand and look at language, right? Because human language, English, Spanish, whatever you speak, right, is very fluid and very flexible and very intuitive, right? Ultimately, it's all symbols that we have kind of agreed on to have a certain kind of definition, but most of the time, things don't really mean what you think they mean, and we don't really understand how they work, right? So what I noticed with programmers, and what I noticed was the special skill of programmers, was this ability to, think conditionally, to think about the variables that have been declared, how things work, and so on, right? So what I noticed was, imagine I went to, for example, a meetup, and I listened to a programmer talk, and I'd hear them say, let's first agree on a definition. What does this mean? And then once we've done that, we can move to engaging and discussing all the conditionals, all the ifs and when and how, regarding this definition, and when a person should do it and when they shouldn't have that value, when they shouldn't, and what it means to have that value, right? So all of a sudden I started noticing that programmers think differently about the world. Programmers see the world differently. So what programmers are doing that nobody else is doing is, first of all, they make sure that everyone has the same understanding of a word, or even if they don't have the same understanding, they make sure that we know what kind of understanding the other person is working with, right? Secondly, what they do that nobody else is doing is they are process-oriented, right? So they don't just think about how to reach a decision, but they think about the process of reaching a decision, right? How do we agree to something? What is the outcome of this discussion? What are we trying to achieve by having and engaging in this kind of discussion, right? So it's much more problem solving related. And here also, finally, what I see them doing that nobody else is doing is they think conditionally, right? While most people tend to find one value that they believe to be correct in every single scenario, the programmer looks at the world and sees different variables and different conditions and says, in these conditions, this variable is good. And in those conditions, those variables are good, right? So they are much more capable then of seeing nuances and understanding that, yes, if we want to do this, then we can do this and this and this. But if we want to do that, then we have to do this and this and this, right? So knowing how to build things, knowing how to organize information, knowing how organization should flow in a process, understanding, the steps necessary to execute a decision. These are all skills of a person that knows how to code. So these are all things that we should all try to apply to different scenarios of life. And we can use this kind of skill in relationships, in work, in our own life, to design our own life, to think about what are the fundamental rules of my life and how I live. And what are the things that I tend to think about on a day? What are the cons? What are the variables that I tend to labor with on a daily basis? And what do I need to do, and how can I reorganize and restructure and format this code to make things more simple, for example? Just knowing how to break things down, knowing how to engage in a PR, how to evaluate what somebody says, to give constructive feedback, to come up with suggestions, to improve the code, to improve the system, to improve the structure of something, right? So these were the kind of skills that I was trying to get here and was starting to develop here. And these were skills that I wanted to also use to understand the human brain and how we process information and personality psychology, right? Because what I started gravitating towards from learning programming was a computational model of neuroscience, right? So looking at the brain as a computer and thinking about how to break down the different processes and skills. And so I landed on this multiple intelligence theory that I use for personality psychology and to discuss what intelligence is and how to develop intelligence and how to improve ourselves and how the ego and the self and the personality and psychology of a person works, right? So these were immensely helpful tools to do so. Now, you might be asking yourself, what happened after I resolved to improve things with my boss? Well, did it work? Yes, it did. I actually left on good terms with my boss. He was impressed by my deliveries. He was impressed by the products that I put forward. He said he would have been happy to keep me if I would have stayed. And he said, when I told him that I got another job, he said, do you want me to make a counter offer? And I said, I'm very happy for this job and I think I'm going to go for it, right? So I didn't even leave him the opportunity to give me a counter offer. I just went on to the next opportunity, and the next opportunity was even more challenging. And I looked at, when I was thinking about what do I want from this new job, and I thought to myself, there's one thing that I want from this job, and that's to learn, right? I just want to keep going. I want to see how far I can push this, and how good can I get that code? How much can I improve here, right? So all I looked for was challenges to help me grow my skills as a developer, to learn multiple languages. And, at this point, something happened since I had both PHP and React experience and Salesforce experience from my customer service times, right? Was that I became a full stack developer, right? So while most developers tend to switch into either a front end or a back end role, I had gotten to the position where I was rightfully considered full stack, right? I can handle both back end languages and I could handle front end languages, and that was all super easy to me and super intuitive, right? So switching between them and understanding that this can be used for that, and in this world I can use this language. It was all like knowing multiple languages in the real world, just as knowing English, Spanish, German, and Dutch, right? Like I can speak JavaScript, React, I can speak PHP, I can understand HTML, CSS, and I can understand Java, and I can understand Apex, right? So these were all things I thought to myself, I can do it, right? Like I can figure it out, right? Now, one thing I never really shook was the feeling like I don't know what I'm doing, right? I have no clue how to do this, right? So that was a constant thing that I felt every single time I got a new challenge or a new task. And, I realized at some point I'm going to continue to have this feeling forever, right? So I'm going to continue to feel like I have no clue what I'm doing. But the difference is going to be like in the future, I'm gonna know that, yes, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I'll figure it out. I figured it out in the past, so I'll figure it out now, right? And I know how to work through it, and I know how to, communicate with my teammates. I know how to find information that's necessary. I know how to Google. I know how to, use different tools to solve the problem. So it's gonna be all right. It always goes and ends up all right. Things always work out, right? And yeah, that's the story of how I became a programmer. I feel like, because that's what I feel like now. I feel like now I can finally say that, yeah, I can consider myself to be a programmer, right? I think up till like a year ago, I felt like I still had some imposter syndrome. Maybe I'm not a coder. Maybe I don't have what it takes. Maybe I'm not good enough, right? I mean, that's what my old boss told me. He told me, you don't have what it takes. You can't do it. You're not cut out to be a programmer, right? And so it was like, yeah, confronted with that, I was like, no, actually, I'll figure it out. And that's what I want other people to believe too. Because sometimes when I talk to my friends, they're like, yeah, you must have some kind of special brain to do this stuff. You must have some kind of special power that people don't have that allows you to do these kind of things, right? Or some special passion or something, right? And the only thing I have is humility, that, understanding and accepting that I don't know everything and that I'll figure it out. And I feel that's the biggest quality of a good programmer, just being able to admit you don't know stuff, but to resolve to do it anyways.